Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to the 12 tribes scattered to the four corners of the earth. Teacher Shaul, to my right.
Officer Levi.
All right. Hopefully everybody has had a blessed and beautiful Shabbat. Hopefully this week has been prosperous and productive. For those who started their Day of Atonement last night, hopefully it's going well for you. For those starting this evening, I wish you the best. The class today came up over the last 24 to 36 hours, I would say. Came to my attention, there was debate within the nation of Israel over when the Sabbath day begins. Okay, so that's why tonight's class is titled, When is the Sabbath? We tackled the topics about like lunar Sabbath before. Smashed that. Did 3 installments on it. To show that the seventh day is the Sabbath, hands down. Now the topic is now whether or not the Sabbath begins at evening, Friday evening to Saturday evening, I'll use those terms, or does the Sabbath begin Saturday morning? Is it a morning to morning? I've even heard evening, or I've heard morning to morning and also morning to evening, meaning Saturday morning to Saturday evening, and I've also heard Saturday morning to Sunday morning. Okay? But I'm going to address those in this class today. To include, there's also how many hours is there in the Sabbath observation. I've caught wind that there is being said right now, theoretically, that there's only 12 hours in the Shabbat. So today's class, of course, as men of the Lord, we're to reason out of the scriptures, in the scriptures. So that's what this is about. All right. It's not to slander anyone. It's not to skull drag or debate in the terms that our people understand it to mean that word, but it's for edification purposes. Okay, and no one will ever gain an understanding unless we address issues as they present themselves head on. Okay, so let's start off with Psalms 119.
Psalms chapter 119, verse 104. Through thy precepts I get understanding. Therefore I hate every false way.
All right. When the Sabbath is highly important. Why? Because the Sabbath is a sign. Okay? We'll get that. But first, let's get Romans chapter 3. Romans chapter 3, and I want verse 4. We're all on the path of seeking truth. We're all on this road to understanding. And on that journey, I want you all to take away with you this little tidbit.
Romans chapter 3, verse 4. You want verse 3 first? 4. God forbid, yea, let God be true, but every man a liar.
This is what I want you to walk away with. Let the Most High God be true, and let every man, no matter who that man is, be a liar. If it's not according to thus saith the Most High, if it doesn't line up with his word, his thought process, his will, then allow that person to be a liar, as scripture has said. Again, Sabbath is very important. Go to Exodus, the 31st chapter. The Sabbath is very, very important because it's a sign. And, I've had brothers who say, when brothers presented me the whole concept of lunar Sabbath, I say, what made you start to venture or look into that area? Well, because I just want to make sure I'm keeping the Sabbath right. I can respect that. A lot of people may not respect those who ventured from the conventional Sabbath keeping. I'm not saying that I respect the act of breaking the Shabbat, but what I do respect is those who are on that path, those who are studying to show themselves approved. I can respect that action. Okay? Exodus 31, start at verse 15. Start at verse 14, Salah.
Exodus 31, chapter 14.
Verse
Salah. Chapter 31, verse 14. Ye shall keep the Sabbath, therefore, for it is holy unto you. Every one that defileth it shall surely be put to death.
So knowing when the Sabbath is, what time it starts, when it ends, what day it is, it matters. Okay? Because you don't want to defile it and be cut off. Come on.
For whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people.
Keep that in mind as well, because doing work is going to be a factor in this lesson. Go ahead.
6 days may work be done, but in the seventh is the Sabbath of rest.
I want y'all to also take note to the words being used here. Day. Like the words like day and days and stuff like that. Go ahead.
Holy to the Lord. Whosoever doeth any work in the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death.
Go ahead.
Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations for a perpetual covenant.
Means a never-ending covenant. Okay, that covenant will not pass away. The Sabbath day observance as a covenant. Go ahead.
It is a sign between me and the children of Israel.
The Most High said that the keeping of the Shabbat, keeping the Sabbath day holy, is a sign between him and his people. It's an identifier. This is how you know. You can't be claim to be a person of God if you do not keep the Sabbath day holy. When he just said that's a sign between a perpetual, never-ending covenant, never-ending binding contractual agreement. Okay? Go ahead.
It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever.
How long?
Forever.
Okay.
For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed.
Okay. Historically, because we know, for those of you who don't know, here at United Kingdom of Israel Congregation, or UKOIC, we push scholarship. Okay, we push that. Okay. More scholarship, less drama. Study, read. All right. So with that being said, we deal with history, we deal with archaeology, which we'll get into in this lesson as well. But there is no, and I'll say it again, there's no historical evidence, none, that the Most High's people who this covenant is made with, who he had to sign with, observe the Sabbath in any other way outside of from evening to evening. I'm going to say that first and foremost at the forefront at the start of this class. There's no historical evidence that it was conducted and observed any other way. Okay? We're going to look at a few. Let's go to John chapter 19. Turn that thing. Turn that thing. All right. John chapter 19. Because what we're going to see here is that we're going to see the rush, the sense of urgency that was placed on getting the Messiah's body down. John chapter 19, verse 31. We're talking about after they had put him to death. Okay? They had to rush to get his body down. Why? Because the Sabbath was near. Verse 31, start there.
John chapter 19, verse 31. The Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation that the bodies should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day. For that Sabbath day was an high day. Besought Pilate that their legs might be broken, and that they might be taken away.
Okay, so we see here that they say we got to get them off because the Sabbath is approaching. We have to get them down off these stakes. We have to take them down. The bodies can't remain here. Okay? It says that, read that again.
The Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day. For that Sabbath day was an high day, besought Pilate that their legs might be broken and that they might be taken away.
Okay. So, we see that because it was the high day, the Sabbath, that it says that no, we have to get these bodies down. They can't stay here. All right? From there, drop down to verse 40. Read there.
Verse 40. Then took they the body of Jesus and wound it in linen cloth, with the spices, as the manner of the Jews is to bury. Now in the place where he was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden a new sepulchre, wherein was never man yet laid. There laid they Jesus, therefore, because of the Jews' preparation day for the sepulchre was nigh at hand.
So you're dealing with preparation day, and then this Sabbath was at hand. Watch this. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 21. Deuteronomy chapter 21. Let's find out why they were in such a rush to get him off this place of death. Deuteronomy chapter 21. And they said, hey, we can't leave him here. We got to get him down. Deuteronomy 21, verse 23.
Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 23. His body shall not remain all night upon the tree.
There it is. They had to get him down before nighttime. Come on.
But thou shalt in any wise bury him that day.
That day. Okay. Why? Because night, that evening, is going to start a new day. I know right now, those who don't agree with evening to evening Shabbat, but by the end of this class, I will break it all the way down. But I'm showing you right now, starting with the Messiah, the reason why they had to get him down right there, because the Sabbath was approaching. Okay? They had to get him down and put in the tomb, as we read from verse 40 on down, before the Sabbath. Read what you just read again.
His body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day. For he that is hanged is a curse of God, that thy land be not defiled.
Okay, so let's get an understanding of that day, that word there. Go to Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1. Again, tonight's class is when is the Sabbath? Does the Sabbath, in fact, begin at sunset and then carry on to the next sunset? Genesis chapter 1, verse 5.
Genesis chapter 1, verse 5. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day.
So although we see the separation of light from dark, and the light was called day, we also see here that the evening, which was that darkness, and that morning, which is clearly daylight, those two together were called that first day. Now, that was a day right there. Those two combined. That's where you see day. All right? Let's continue. Go to the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 16. Let's find out. We're still dealing with day. Because it's our argument, or our stance, I should say, that a day consists of evening or darkness and then light. Not light and then darkness. All right. So we're going to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 16. We're going to spend some time in Deuteronomy 16. But I'm going to come back to it. But I want you to go to Deuteronomy 16 and read me verse 4.
Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 4. And there shall be no leavened bread seen with thee in all thy coasts 7 days. Neither shall there anything of the flesh which thou sacrificest the first day at even.
Wait a minute. We understand that the Passover takes place at even. We understand that this kicks off the Feast of Unleavened Bread. We're reading the guidelines that there should be no leavened bread within your dwellings, okay, at all, for 7 days. That don't mean 7 12-hour periods. That means 24-hour periods. 7 of them, okay? And we see that it says that neither shall there be anything of the flesh which thou sacrifice the first day at even. Go ahead.
Remain all night until the morning.
Remain all night until morning. Okay. We're going to deal with that. I'm just pointing out some key scriptures that we're going to jump off into. All right. Go to 2 Chronicles chapter 2. This is my outline. Give you all key points, and then we're going to dig into this thing. 2 Chronicles chapter 2, verse 4.
2 Chronicles chapter 2, verse 4. Behold, I built an house to the name of the Lord my God, to dedicate it to him, and to burn before him sweet incense, and for the continual shewbread, and for the burnt offerings, morning and evening, on the Sabbaths and on the new moons, and on the solemn feast of the Lord our God. This is an ordinance forever to Israel.
So we see on the Sabbaths and on the new moons and on the solemn feast. Okay. But understand what we're dealing with here. When we talk about in these days are composed of both nights and days and nights. Okay. Understand that the way the Most High designed everything, he designed it on a perfect cycle. Okay. You can't eliminate half of that equation. You can't take away half the cycle and still say that the cycle is complete. See, when you deal in these times, you're saying that, for example, if you're going to say the Sabbath is only during daylight periods, that's like IUIC saying that the new moon is on a full moon. Only when it's light. That makes no sense. Everything is set on a perfect circuit. Okay, you're not going to have day without light, light without day, darkness, and vice versa, or darkness without the light. They exist within their own realms when there are certain times that the Most High set in order. You can't say there's only 12 hours in the Shabbat when there's 24 hours in a full day. So what about the nighttime? Do that time not exist or something? That's what I want to know. Does that not exist now? So the 6th day is from daytime to nighttime. Then nighttime don't exist. Then the Sabbath is in the morning when the light come back up. That's borderline sun worship. Let's continue. Okay. So a whole day clearly is measured from dark, that's at the point of sunset, to the next sunset. Okay. That is a full day. A full day is that sunset all throughout the night. Okay, sun come up, then it set again. Complete cycle, one full circuit. Okay. Let's look at another meaning of this word day. Okay. So we can see that the word day, when we're dealing with when it's light, okay? When it's light outside, when the sun is up, that's called day, right? So now you must take into consideration, what does the scriptures mean? What does the Bible mean when it's talking about a day? Because when you go into the scriptures, you will see that the word day can, in that day, do it mean literally in that day or in that time span, in that time frame, okay? Day, that whole day or just doing daylight, okay? It's like you say good day to somebody. Okay, good day. You say good evening. Well, in our world, it's changed up because the evening marks the beginning of a new day. But if you want to look at it from a carnal, worldly perspective, that didn't change anything. You're going to have both segments of time to complete that full day. All right? Go to Matthew chapter 12. Matthew chapter 12. Let's get an example. Matthew, the 12th chapter. Let's start with verse number 40.
Matthew chapter 12, verse 40. For as Jonas was 3 days and 3 nights.
Wait a minute, what did he say again?
For as Jonas was 3 days and 3 nights.
So here we see that when the Messiah is talking about days, he's talking about that daylight portion when the sun is up. 3 days,
and 3 nights.
And 3 nights. Okay. Go ahead.
In the whale's belly. So shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth.
So we understand that means, when he say 3 days and 3 nights, everybody understand that to mean 3 full days. Nothing more, nothing less. It's not 3 days. You say 3 days and 3 nights. That's not 6. It's 3 days. You can't eliminate the night portion out of that day time span. You can't. I'm going to do another installment where I break that all the way down. 3 days, 3 nights. And how when the scripture says in 3 days, on third day, the third day, all of those things mean exactly the same thing. So understand that when he said 3 days and 3 nights, he was stating the time span of 3 full entire days. Not just 3 portions of daylight. All right? From there, go to Leviticus chapter 23.
Yo, 3 7 portions, so that's the whole week.
It's confusing in essence. Leviticus chapter 23. Fortunately, when I conduct research, I don't conduct biased research. So I conduct research based on the argument I want to present, as well as arguments of others who presented in, different settings, not necessarily directed towards me, but in different settings when a topic arises. Okay? So, Leviticus 23, start at verse 26.
Leviticus chapter 23, verse 26. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, also on the 10th day of this 7th month.
On the 10th day, there's that word again, of the 7th month.
There shall be a day of atonement.
A day of atonement. So you tell me the day of atonement is only 12 hours? Saying when you got Sabbath day, you said that's 12 hours. Is the day of atonement only 12 hours? No, it's not. Read.
It shall be an holy convocation unto you.
The Sabbath is also a holy convocation. Come on.
And ye shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord.
So, is the memorial blowing of trumpets only a 12-hour period? No. Okay. In that 7th month, you kick it off with the blowing of trumpets, which is the new moon. Then you get the Day of Atonement. Then from there, it leads you off into tabernacles. So my question is, when we look at Day of Atonement, which we know is a 24-hour period, I want to know and see the argument with proofs to support the stance of this 12-hour theory. Okay, because we're dealing with the day, Yom Kippur, okay, is a day of horn blast. So you telling me we're only supposed to blow the horn for 12 hours? We're dealing with day here. What consists or constitutes a whole day? Okay? Was that it on that?
Come.
All right, drop down to verse 32.
Verse 32. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls in the ninth day of the ninth day of the month, at even, from even unto even shall ye celebrate your Sabbath.
So now we see here it says from even to even you shall celebrate your Sabbath. Why in this instance? These are questions that I gotta be answered now. They must be answered. Why did this day here, the Day of Atonement, last from evening to evening? Why didn't it last from morning or sun up to sundown? Why did it last from evening to evening? And the parallel between this day and the Sabbath was made. That's questions that I would like to have answered. Okay? But clearly we see here that that day started in the evening. You can't refute that. You may try to present an argument on when the Sabbath started. You can't contend that when it's referencing this day. Why did it this day? We're not dealing with Sabbath. We're dealing with days. Why did this day start at evening and end at evening? So this was an anomaly. This just popped up and that happened at one time. Or no, because then the Passover would have to be an anomaly. That takes place at evening. Interesting. Go to Numbers 29. Numbers chapter 29. Verse 7.
Numbers chapter 29, verse 7. And ye shall have on the 10th day of this 7th month an holy convocation.
Now, it's called it the 10th day here. But we just read in Leviticus 23 that 10th day started on the 9th at evening. We got an issue here. Go ahead.
And ye shall afflict your souls, ye shall do any work therein.
So now the question becomes, when is evening? What is evening? When is evening? Go to John 11. I've seen this brought out. I'm going to address this briefly because I don't even think much time needs to be spent on this scripture right here. John 11, verse 9.
John chapter 11, verse 9. Jesus answered, Are there not 12 hours in the day? If any man walk in the day, he stumbleth not, because he seeth the light of this world.
Now the question is, because when you throw this out there, this is not to say that there's only 12 hours in a day. There's 12 hours in the day. What day? Daylight. That's common sense. And I'm going to show you the difference in these words. Because, of course, y'all know that teacher Shaul got to go into the language. I'm going to go into the language and I'm going to go into the historical aspects of it. Okay? But you got to understand, and that's why it's kind of hard when we're dealing with it. And that's why I commend brothers that take the time out to even try to go through and deal with it from a linguistic standpoint. Because the English language will just throw all these words. Even though a word may have multiple meanings, you'll see day, and I understand that day could mean different things based on the word that it was translated from. All right? So shout out to brothers that do that type of thing. But right here we know, from the time the sun come up, whether the sun come up at 6 till about 6 in the evening or 7, give or take a little bit, it's about 12 hours of daylight. Okay? This is what Christ is talking. He's not talking about it's only 12 hours in a day. That's madness. He's talking about a daylight. How do we know? Read it again.
Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours in the day? If any man walk in the day, he stumbleth not.
Why? Because it's daylight. You can see everything. That's why. Come on.
Because he seeth the light of this world.
That's another story which I'm going to touch on next, but go ahead.
But if a man walk in the night.
In the night. That means, see now, this is a whole other segment. If this man walk in the night, come on.
He stumbleth because there is no light in him.
So there's no light. He don't see where he's going. Now, this is a parable, first of all, and it has nothing to do with how many hours or anything to do with the Sabbath. Okay? When he starts talking about 12 hours in a day, he's talking about the breakdown between daylight versus nighttime. Okay? Not to say that there's only 12 hours in a day. He's also using this parabolically to speak of himself and this word. Why? Because if you're walking in the word, you're walking in the light, you know where you're going. You're not going to fall. When you wander outside the way of this understanding, away from the word, out of the light, you walk in darkness. But ultimately, what the Messiah is conveying is he knows what he's doing, and he can see this thing clearly. Why was this even a topic? Why? Because when you go back up to verse 7 and 8, you will see that the disciples was operating in a spirit of fear. Go up to verse 7.
Verse 7 of John chapter 11. Then after that saith he to his disciples, let us go into Judea again. Mm-hmm. His disciples say unto him, Master, the Jews of late sought to stone thee, and goest thou thither again?
He said, wait a minute. Hey, look. They already tried to put you to death. They want to kill you. And you want to go back there? And he said what?
Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours in the day?
Now, what did that answer have to do with their question? You got to think about this from a spiritual level, y'all. We're not going to start reading these scriptures from a Christian perspective and just scrape off the words off the page because that's what it say like that. Apply wisdom. So understand, yes, there are 12 hours of daylight, but this literally had nothing to do with him really getting into the debate over days. Okay? So, first thing we see, a comparison was made between somebody walking in daylight by the light of the sun and that person walking confidently his path. Why? Because it's illuminated. He can see where he's going. He's not going to stumble. Okay? His ability to walk by that light allows him to walk without fear. Think about it. People are afraid of dark. Well, in the world we live in now, people are afraid of the light, right? Okay? But understand, when you deal with, we just talk like children and things like that, we got to take on that type of mentality to gain a certain understandings, right? You, as an adult, more likely to walk down the street when it's daylight than you are to walk down a dark alley. So, why? Because you don't know what's lurking in the shadows. Keep that word in mind too, shadow. All right? Number two, if that man walks at night without light or the presence of the sun, then he may have a reason to worry. Okay? His path is dark. It's not illuminated. And the option or the likelihood of him stumbling on his path is that much more greater. It's like getting up in your house in the middle of the night. Let's say you tired after work or something, you just kicked off your shoes, and then you wake up and forgot that your shoes are sprawled out, and you trip over it or something. You didn't see that coming, did you?
Or you hit your toe in the corner of the bed.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, hell yeah. That's a real one right there. You hit your toe on that thing. See, these are things we have to think about when we're looking at this parable that we're reading here. All right? But, stay in John, because I want to give you a parallel to it. Okay? The principle that I'm conveying right now through the scriptures is one that we can see in John chapter 9. Watch this. Remember what we just read. John chapter 9, let's get verse 4. Start there.
John chapter 9, verse 4.
Because remember he started talking about the light not being in him and stuff like that. And that's how it was a parable. But go ahead.
I must work the works of him that sent me, while it is day.
Wait a minute. I must work the works, God do God's will, while it is what?
Day.
While it's day. Come on.
The night cometh when no man can work.
Wow. That's interesting. Read on.
As long as I am in the world.
As long as Christ is in the world.
I am the light of the world.
Now we get an understanding of what we just read in John. We're talking about a period of time here. Y'all got to understand it. The Messiah spoke in parables. And if you think that him saying 12 hours a day literally means only 12 hours for a Shabbat, I'm deeply curious to know how you arrived at that. Okay? So understand that. Go to Luke chapter 4. I want Mark chapter 1 and Luke 4.
You want to do first, Mark?
Yeah, go to Mark, because, like I said, I study both sides of the argument. And I've heard people say, well, we don't know, and when I'm getting ready to read, we don't know that it was the end of the Sabbath. Because I'm getting ready to say that it was the end of the Sabbath, or it was on one Sabbath where the Mashiach was preaching, okay, cast out devil with this dude that was in the congregation. And then he went to Simon Peter's house. I believe it was Simon Peter's house. He healed Simon Peter's mother-in-law. I know that. Okay. And then after that, everybody started bringing all the sick people to him so that they could be healed. All this took place after sundown. Watch this. Go to Mark chapter 1, read verse 32.
Mark chapter 1, verse 32. And at even.
What time?
At even. When the sun did set.
When the sun had set.
They brought unto him all that were diseased, and them that were possessed with devils.
This is what happened after the sunset. So from there. I like getting a little sprinkling of the different accounts. Go to Luke chapter 4. We're going to start with verse 38. Luke chapter 4, we're going to start with verse 38.
Luke chapter 4, verse 38. And he arose out of the synagogue and entered into Simon's house. And Simon's wife's mother was taken with a great fever. And they besought him for her. And he stood over her and rebuked the fever. And it left her. And immediately she arose and ministered unto them. Now, when the sun was setting, all they that had any sick with diverse diseases brought them unto him. And he laid his hand on every one of them and healed them. And devils also came out of many, crying out and saying, Thou art Christ, the Son of God. And he, rebuking them, suffered them not to speak.
So, again, see, somebody could say, well, you know what? Especially when you go into Mark. Say, well, this actually will show that it was, in the evening, and the Sabbath had ended that evening. Well, we'll see. We'll see about that. Okay. We shall see. We just got to understand, I'm laying out the groundwork of what days consist of. All right? And I'm showing you things that happen on Sabbath. I'm getting ready to show you a lot more in depth. Okay? That these things took place from evening to evening. There were things that took place during the day, but days were counted from evening to evening. The Sabbath is counted from evening to evening. Okay? So the question is, what is evening? When is evening? Evening is when the sun becomes even with the horizon, or what everybody calls sunset. Okay? Go to Deuteronomy chapter 16. Deuteronomy chapter 16. This is how you know that evening is when the sun goes down. Because the Bible explains itself. See, I'm not giving you Esau's definition of what evening is. We're going to find out according to the scriptures. Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 6.
Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 6. But at the place which the Lord thy God shall choose to place his name in, there thou shalt sacrifice the Passover at even.
At even. Mm-hmm.
At the going down of the sun.
That's how you know what evening is. When the sun goes down. That's evening. That kicks it off. Simple. Scriptures explain themselves. Go ahead.
At the season that thou camest forth out of Egypt.
Okay. So the evening. So when we look at Mark 1, okay, when we looked at Mark 1 and 32, it said, and at even when the sun did set. Why? Because this started the new days. The same way when they had to get that body down. They had to get the body down. Why? Because it couldn't remain overnight. Because that next day was the Sabbath. Okay? So if Sabbath didn't start to that morning, why did they have to get the bodies down before the sun went down? If the Sabbath don't start in the evening, why did the bodies have to be down before evening? That's the question. Okay, now let's examine something from the four Gospels. We're going to drop something in the comment section too. Let's examine something because, you can't see my screen. We're going to end up having to get back with the TV and all that in effect. But we're going to look at these accounts of the Gospels. 4 different accounts of the Gospels. All based on the resurrection. And what we're going to see is that we're going to see what the Most High regards as a day. And you'll see that he regards days as beginning at evening. Okay? We get ready to analyze when the women came to the tomb after the resurrection. Okay? So we're getting ready to look at a couple things. We're going to look at Matthew chapter 28. We're going to look at Mark chapter 16, Luke chapter 24, and John chapter 20. All these are first and second verses. Matthew 28 and 1, start there.
Matthew chapter 28, verse 1. In the end of the Sabbath,
meaning after the Sabbath,
as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week.
That's critical right there. It says, as it began to dawn. It wasn't dawn yet. We all know what dawn means. It wasn't dawn yet. Go ahead.
Came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre.
So, we see it was after the Sabbath. towards the dawn of the first day of the week. As it began to dawn to the first day of the week. So the sun hadn't came up yet. All right. From there, go to Mark 16. Remember, it was after the Sabbath, what Matthew just said, and it began to dawn towards the first day of the week. The sun hadn't came up yet. We'll see. Mark 16. You started verse 1.
Mark chapter 16, verse 1. And when the Sabbath was past, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Salome had bought sweet spices that they might come and anoint him.
I want you to keep that in mind. It said they bought. Okay? Meaning they purchased. So the Sabbath is over. You can't buy on the Sabbath. They went and bought these spices and stuff. The Sabbath is officially over. Remember, it's the evening going into sunlight coming up. And the Sabbath's over. Right? Okay, no doubt. Read on.
And very early in the morning, the first day of the week, they came unto the sepulchre at the rising of the sun.
They came at the rising of the sun. So they had to travel out. So they had to wait for the Sabbath to end. Then go get these spices that they purchased. You look up the word bought. We're not going to get into semantics. The word, you look up the word bought. In the Greek, you'll see it literally talking about buying. It says marketplace. So they had to go and buy these things that night. Then travel and go to the place where the Messiah had been laid. When they made it there now, it's telling you that the sun is up. But remember, we are already coming up on this first day of the week, right? It's the first day of the week. It's the first day of the week. And we got to dawn. See, you thinking, oh, that means as it's getting ready. No, we're just talking about as the light was getting ready to come up. I'll show you. So the sun had risen according to Mark, no doubt. Go to Luke chapter 24. I got to paint this first and then lay it out. Luke 24, verse 1.
Luke chapter 24, verse 1. Now, upon the first day of the week, very early in the morning, they came unto the sepulchre, bringing the spices which they had prepared, and certain others with them.
Okay, so we see here, first day of the week, he said very early in the morning. Okay, so the sun was up when they arrived at the tomb. One more, go to John chapter 20. John chapter 20, verse 1.
John chapter 20, verse 1. The first day of the week cometh Mary Magdalene early, when it was yet dark.
Wait a minute. John say that she came on the first day of the week, but it was still dark. I thought the day didn't begin until the sun was up. And that's when you say the Sabbath begins from sun up to sundown, and that's a day because only 12 hours in a day. We got some explaining to do. Read it again.
The first day of the week cometh Mary Magdalene early, when it was yet dark, unto the sepulchre, and seeth the stone taken away.
Remember what Matthew said. Toward the dawn. Okay, as it began to dawn to the first day. According to Matthew, the sun hadn't came up yet. All right? Now, when we look at John chapter 20, he says it was already the first day of the week. And he also says that it was still dark outside. Okay? If it's still dark outside, that means that the week already began before the sun rose. It was still dark outside. The sun hadn't came up yet. So do every other day start at evening but the Sabbath? I'm confused. Now, in John chapter 20, when it says while it was still dark, what does it say?
When it was yet dark.
Oh, same thing. I'm getting ready to explain that to you. Okay? When it was yet dark, or while it was still dark. Okay? I'm going to point something out to you real quick. Because that word comes from, if you're using the Strong's numbering system, number 2089. 2089. Okay? Because what we have to understand is, if he said it's the first day of the week, while it was yet still dark, that means that you have to understand that the first day of the week started before sunrise, right? And started at the previous sunset. That's the only way you can get somewhere, because the sun ain't rose yet. The previous day has to start at the sunset. So, number 2089, the word is eti, E-T-I. It's a Greek word. In every bold print, in every E-V-E-R-Y, in every instance that word eti 2089 is found, it always means still or yet. That's why I said when it says still, while it was still dark or yet, it means the same thing. I'm getting ready to break it down. Okay? It means the exact same thing. All right? So that word means still or yet. And the actual definition that's given in the Strong's lexicon is yet or still of time or degree. Yet or still of time or degree. So, through my research, I've seen that some people that believe that a day begins at sunrise as opposed to the previous sunset or from evening to evening. Some people from my research have suggested that word eti 2089 can have the meaning of no longer. They said the word means no longer, as opposed to meaning still or yet. So let's examine something. Go to Galatians chapter 3. Because somebody will say, well, see, right there it said while it was no longer dark. No, it said while it was yet dark or still dark, not no longer. I'm going to prove that to you. Galatians chapter 3, verse 25. Read that.
Galatians chapter 3, verse 25. But after that faith is come, we are no longer.
We are no longer. When you look that up in your blue letter Bible or your interlinear, whatever you're using, you're going to see the word eti right there, 2089, right? But in order for that to be possible, the only way for that word eti to mean no longer as opposed to yet and still, it has to be accompanied by the Greek word that means no. You can't say that the word eti by itself is no longer. See, this is what comes down to understanding the linguistics. Okay? You don't understand the vernacular. And just because you can go through interlinear and say this word mean this and that word mean that, that don't mean jack. If you don't know that without that word don't mean that. Eti means yet or still. The only time it means no longer or no more, like no longer dark or no more dark, is when you put it with the Greek word for no. So when we're looking at Galatians 3 and 25, it says, but after that, faith is come. We are no longer, it has 2089, eti, and then it has the word, it has 3765 right next to that. Well, I do it's back there. Give me that Strong's Concordance back there. Without 3765, 2089 is not going to mean no longer. Give me a second. (3765) is Ukoic, also separately, okay? And it means after that, not, or not anymore, or not, or henceforth, not, no longer more, not as yet, now no more, or yet not. Without that word, without 3765, 2089, eti does not mean no longer. I'll give you another example. Go to Hebrews chapter 8. Hebrews chapter 8. You got to know what word connects with the next word. Otherwise, it's going to be improper. It's not going to make no sense. It's like in Spanish, when you're looking at verbs and the verb tenses and stuff, and you're looking at words like yo estoy, yo soy, ser, the verb to be, I am. Okay? So soy is me, yo soy. You or tú in Spanish. I can't say tú soy. That's improper. Just because you know what a word is, don't mean that you can put it in a sentence and make it make sense. That word does not mean what you think it means by itself. Hebrews chapter 8, verse 12.
Hebrews chapter 8, verse 12. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. Now,
in order for that to be no more, you will have to couple 3364 with 2089. Because 2089 by itself doesn't mean no more. It means yet or still. So when you add these other words, it now means not yet or no longer or no more. So in this text, we're looking at 3364, and we see that that's ume. It's a double negative. Denial, meaning not at all, anymore, at all, or by no means, neither, never, no, not at all, in no case, or in no wise, or not ever. You can't have a word and think just because this word says this, and you see it here, oh, that means no longer was it dark. No, it don't. You made that up. The only time that 2089 eti can mean no longer is when it's coupled with another word that means no. If it's not another word that's put with that word, then it's not going to mean no, okay? To say that eti means no longer would be like a person trying to tell us that our English word light actually means darkness. Because darkness means no longer light. So it's like somebody who don't speak English telling us, oh no, that word light, it means darkness. Because they see the word light being used in a phrase pertaining to no light. So now you're going to say that that word, when you see it, it means darkness? No, that's not what that means. There's also, through research, that says that the word eti can mean after that. No. Again, knowing the context is the key. I looked everywhere, and I couldn't find not one place in the KJV or any other translation. Just let you know I'm not doing biased research. I got numerous Bibles around here. Okay? Whether it be a Jehovah's Witness type Bible, NIV Bible, Jerusalem Bible, whatever little Bible I had around here, some other little Bible, I don't even know what it is, some Catholic Bible, I could not find in the KJV or any other translation where the word eti means after that, where you get that 2089. It doesn't. It don't exist. That's false. Okay? And when you look at Matthew 28:1, you will see that it's dealing with after the Sabbath. Okay? That's a key indicator to let you know that the week has begun now. Excuse me. It's the first day of the week. Okay? It was, and it began to dawn. Toward dawn. It wasn't dawn yet. The sunlight had not broke the surface yet. It was still dark. That started the new day. That darkness. Okay? In Matthew 28:1, the word for dawn there is number 2020. 2020. The word is 2020. Epifosco. It means to begin to grow light. It wasn't light yet. It was leading up to that point. The Sabbath had ended that evening, and it was now beginning to get light outside just before the sun came up.
Is that that time known as twilight? Or was it, the sun ain't fully, but like when the sky starts to gain a little lighter color?
When you start to get that lightness on the horizon.
Right.
Right. It's not light yet. It's leading up into that point. Right. Okay. So, again, it don't mean that the sun was up. It wasn't sunrise. That's Christianity. He rose on this day and all that, and it was Sunday morning, and the sun rise, the sun rose when the sun rise. That's paganism, man. Cut that out. Okay, let's see. Here's a summary. Okay. John 21 says it was on the first day of the week, yet it was still dark. Therefore, the first day of the week had already begun prior to sunrise. Mark 16:1 says that they bought spices when the Sabbath was past. But yet it was before the sun had risen, proving that the Sabbath ended at sundown and the next day began at sundown. Matthew 28:1 says that after the Sabbath, during the period of time that it began to grow light. That's the period of time right before sunrise. Okay? It's very clear just from examining those 3-4 scriptures to show that when the Sabbath ends, the next day begins. That's how it happens. And all that happened before the sun came up. The Sabbath ended and the next day began. And if you're saying that the Sabbath is only 12 hours out of the day, from sun up to sundown, what do you call the period after the sun go down on what I call a Shabbat? So what's Saturday evening? That day, what's that?
Intermediate Saturday. It's a conjunction Saturday.
It's a conjunction? God. Hey. He said intermediate Saturday. Hey, that's what I'm saying, bro. What do you call that period of time then? Okay? That's the craziest, most weirdest thing ever. All right? So, let's get something else real quick. Go to Nehemiah 13, man. Looking at Nehemiah, I don't know how you can walk away with a different understanding of when the Sabbath is. Okay? When the Israelites returned to Jerusalem after the Babylonian captivity, Nehemiah had to teach. He reintroduced the law back to the Israelites. Told them this is how you observe the Shabbat. Okay. To prevent interruption of the Shabbat, Nehemiah commanded certain things to take place. Watch this. Nehemiah chapter 13, starting verse 15.
Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 15. In those days saw I in Judah some treading wine presses on the Sabbath, and bringing in sheaves and lading asses, as also wine, grapes, and figs, and all manner of burdens, which they brought unto Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I testified against them in the day wherein they sold victuals.
Go ahead.
There dwelt men of Tyre also therein, which brought fish and all manner of ware, and sold on the Sabbath unto the children of Judah, and in Jerusalem. Then I contended with the nobles of Judah, and said unto them, what evil thing is this that ye do, and profane the Sabbath?
Did they profane the Sabbath day? See, somebody say, see that? Sabbath day. That means the daytime, Mark. No. We're talking about a full 24-hour period. We're going to get it. Read on.
Did not your fathers thus, and did not our God bring all this evil upon us?
Wait a minute. Wait. Hold on. Go ahead.
And upon this city, yet ye bring more wrath upon Israel by profaning the Sabbath.
By profaning the Sabbath. Let me shift gears right quick. I never heard anybody really touch on this. When he said, did not your fathers thus? He's asking a question about something that transpired beforehand. Okay? When he said, did not your fathers thus? Did not your fathers do this same thing? Okay? Real quick, we coming back there, so hold that place. Go to Jeremiah chapter 17. Let's find out, like, what is Nehemiah talking about? Our forefathers did the same thing. Jeremiah 17, start at verse 19.
Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 19. Thus said the Lord unto me, go and stand in the gate of the children of the people, whereby the kings of Judah come in, and by which they go out, and in all the gates of Jerusalem. And say unto them, hear ye the word of the Lord, ye kings of Judah, and all Judah, and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem that enter in by these gates. Thus saith the Lord, take heed to yourselves, and bear no burden on the Sabbath day.
This is what he's talking about. Come on.
Nor bring it in by the gates of Jerusalem. Neither carry forth a burden out of your houses on the Sabbath day. Neither do ye any work, but hallow ye the Sabbath day as I commanded your fathers.
Go ahead.
But they obey not.
But did your forefathers not do the same thing? The same thing asked them. Did they not do thus? Here it is. Come on.
Neither incline their ear, but made their necks stiff, that they might not hear, nor receive instruction. And it shall come to pass, if ye diligently hearken unto me, saith the Lord, to bring in no burden through the gates of this city on the Sabbath day, but hallow the Sabbath day, to do no work therein. Then shall there enter into the gates of the city kings and princes sitting upon the throne.
The Most High said you're going to be blessed. You're going to live lavish, royalty. Okay, drop down to verse 27.
Verse 27. But if ye will not hearken unto me to hallow the Sabbath day, and not to bear a burden even entering in at the gates of Jerusalem on the Sabbath day, then will I kindle a fire in the gates thereof, and it shall devour the places of Jerusalem, and it shall not be quenched.
In other words, we're going to piss the Most High off. Okay, so Now we're looking at it, go back to Nehemiah. Nehemiah in the spirit, he like, yo, we not finna go through this. We need to be blessed. We don't have time to receive the curses of the Most High for being bogus and violating the Sabbath day. Okay? So this is what he's talking about. All right, go back to Nehemiah. Go ahead. Verse 18.
Did not your fathers thus, and did not our God bring all this evil upon us and upon this city? Yet ye bring more wrath upon Israel by profaning the Sabbath.
That's why I said it's very important. Knowing what you should not do on the Sabbath, and that you don't profane it and you keep it holy. Otherwise, what are you doing? You bringing more wrath upon Israel. See, stop being individual minded and start thinking nation minded. Okay? What you do don't just affect you. Go ahead.
And it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark.
Wait, it came to pass when it started to get dark outside.
When the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath, I commanded that the gates should be shut, and charged that they should not be opened till after the Sabbath. And some of my servants set I at the gates, that there should no burden be brought in on the Sabbath day.
So to ensure that no burdens were brought through the gates on the Sabbath, he made a special point to command that the gates are shut. Shut when? As it began to be dark before the Sabbath. Because the Sabbath starts when it's dark. But before that, shut the gates. Okay? Now, when we examine the Hebrew, there's no doubt that this refers to a time period prior to sunset. Because the Hebrew word translated dark in that verse is 6751, which means shadowing. Shadowing. There's other words that use that same, and that's the other thing too. You can't, because it says dark or shadow, you think that's it. Okay, there's other words that are related to 671 that have the same meaning. When you look at 4699 Metzulah, that comes from 6751, meaning shade or bottom. When you look at 6738 Saleh from 6751, that means shade, whether literally or figuratively. Okay. 6752 also comes from 6751, which means shade or shadow. Okay. So when we go into some examples of that, we look at books like Job chapter 40 and verse 22, and they talk about the lotus trees covered him with their shade. That word that's used right there is 6752. When you look at Ezekiel chapter 31 and verse 3, and it says that indeed Assyria was a cedar in Lebanon with fine branches that shaded. That word shaded come from 6751. So we're talking about a time where it begins. It's not fully dark yet. So when we're looking at that, when it says dark, we're talking about that shadow. In order for a shadow to be cast, there has to be light. So it wasn't dark yet. Okay. But we're still in Nehemiah 13. Pick up verse 20.
Verse 20. Then I testified against them and said unto them, why lodge ye about the wall? If you do so again, I will lay hands on you. From that time forth came they no more on the Sabbath.
Go ahead.
And I commanded the Levites that they should cleanse themselves, and that they should come and keep the gates to sanctify the Sabbath day. Remember me, O my God, concerning this also, and spare me according to the greatness of thy mercy.
So here he is now. We're seeing that clearly that before it even got dark, they said before the Sabbath. Why they didn't close the gates when it was dark? Because according to some people's doctrine, the Sabbath don't start till the morning. So why are you going to be like, all right, it's nighttime now, y'all. We can shut down shop and close the gates. Why did you close them before it got dark if the Sabbath don't start till morning? Now, I'll just give y'all a sample because I don't even want to unload all my cannons on this one lesson. Okay, I gotta, what they call it, like job security.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? I gotta keep something, all right? I'm gonna leave a little paperwork left over because I'm not finished. But I'm gonna take a quick turn. Let's deal with the historical evidence aspect of it. Hold this up. Josephus. I know a lot of you Israelites that go and you got the Josephuses. All praises. It's a pretty fat book too. When I say fat, I literally mean F-A-T. It's thick. A lot of people ain't gonna read it all. But that's why you got people like me. Historical evidence from Josephus. In the wars of the Jews. Okay. Wars of the Jews, 4-582. And I quote, "And the last was erected above the top of Pastaphoria, where one of the priests stood, of course, and gave a signal beforehand with a trumpet." Hang on. Let me pause right there. Josephus is a first century historian. Okay? Josephus lived during the first century. And a lot of people go to him for those accounts. Okay? It says he was a contemporary of the apostles, or he walked alongside and during the time frame that they lived. Okay? So this is what we would call a primary source. He was there. I'm not talking about some Negro who lived in 2017. You don't even know what happened in your hood last week. But you want to tell me what happened in Jerusalem in the first century. Josephus, Wars of the Jews, says, "And the last was erected above the top of Pastaphoria, where one of the priests stood, of course, and gave a signal beforehand with a trumpet at the beginning of every seventh day, in the evening twilight." If the Sabbath don't start till the morning, why did Josephus just say that at the Sabbath, at the start of the Sabbath, they blew the shofar in the evening? If the Sabbath don't start till morning. Somebody hit. Somebody hit. I'm not finished yet. As also at the evening when the day was finished. So Josephus said that the Sabbath started at the evening and the day ended at when the evening was done. But you want me to believe 2017 people. Stop it. It says also at the evening when the day was finished, as giving notice to the people when they were to stop work and when they were to go to work again. So, according to this, the beginning of every Sabbath, the shofar was blown, and which he designated as the evening, to let you know, stop working. And then when the Sabbath was over, the next evening, they blew the shofar again to say, now you can go back to work. This is the first century historian Josephus said. I can't make this up. Maybe Josephus is not enough. Let's look at archaeology. They know how we do it, UKOIC. History, archaeology. You can't look, it's written in stone, fam, okay? Watch this. I'm gonna quote this. Okay. So we're gonna look at, this is from this editor. Who is this dude? HS. This is 2004, but that was a reprint, and it came out in July of 1980, and it's from the Biblical Archaeology Society. This is what I'm getting ready to quote. When we excavated the beautifully paved Herodian street adjacent to the southern wall and near the southwestern corner of the enclosure wall, we found a particularly large ashlar block. On the inside was a niche where a man might stand, especially if the ashlar were joined to another, which would enlarge the niche or a little cutout, right? On the outside was a carefully and elegantly incised Hebrew inscription that read, "To the place of trumpeting to declare." If the restoration of the world, declare is correct, the rest of the missing part of the inscription will more than likely go on to tell us about the declaring of the beginning and the end of the Shabbat. The stone had been toppled during the Roman destruction of the temple onto the street below, where it had lain for nearly 2,000 years until it was uncovered. Now, it said the entire city was visible from this spot on the southwest corner. Well, I skipped the part, excuse me. It said it must have originally come from the pinnacle of the southwestern corner of the Temple Mount. From a spot on top of the temple chambers, a priest will blow trumpet on Sabbath Eve to announce the arrival of the Sabbath and the cessation, or meaning the stoppage, of all labor, and to announce on the following evening the departure of the Sabbath and the resumption of all labor. The entire city was visible from this spot on the southwest corner of the Temple Mount. The clarion call of the trumpet will reach the farthest markets of the city. Such a scene is recounted by Josephus in his work, The Jewish War. So even archaeologists, they saying, look, we found this right here with the Hebrew inscription to let you know that from this point, this is the point that they use to let you know and declare the beginning of the Shabbat and the end of it. Just like Josephus said. They found this 2,000 years after Josephus. I'm going to leave off with a couple of things. We're getting ready to close out here. Go to 2 Timothy chapter 3. But I want to leave off with something. One of the things I want to leave off with is a question. Because I know the rebuttal when it comes is going to be in the form of bringing up Exodus chapter 16. And that's why I intentionally didn't address Exodus 16 this evening. But I'll go ahead and get the ball rolling. When we go to Exodus, the 16th chapter, I want to point out a couple of things real quick. Go to Exodus 16. Hold that second, Timothy. We'll go to Exodus 16 real quick. Because this is one of the arguments. So I want to address something. Because the argument is, well, let's deal with the argument first. Start at verse 22.
Exodus chapter 16, verse 22. And it came to pass that on the 6th day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for one man, and all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses.
Go ahead.
And he said unto them, This is that which the Lord hath said. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath.
So, 6th day, they have to gather twice as much because they're not going to be gathering anything on the Sabbath. Okay? So, gather twice as much bread. That's key. Twice as much bread. Tomorrow's the Sabbath. Go ahead.
Unto the Lord. Bake that which ye will bake today, and seeth that ye will see it, and that which remaineth overlay up for you to be kept until the morning.
You'll keep it until the morning. Come on.
And they laid it up till the morning, as Moses bade. And it did not stink, neither was there any worm therein.
Come on.
And Moses said, Eat that today, for today is a Sabbath unto the Lord.
So the argument is, it says, you know what, gather twice as much, because tomorrow's a Sabbath. And then, because the scriptures say, that in the morning, they say keep that till the morning. And say when they got up, Moses was like, yo, it's a Sabbath. Well, duh, of course he's going to say it was a Sabbath, because the Sabbath is a part of that morning. But your argument is that the Sabbath didn't start until that morning. Okay, so here's my question then. If that's your argument, legit. Exodus 16, go up to verse 11.
Verse 11. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel. Speak unto them, saying, At even ye shall eat flesh. And in the morning ye shall be filled with bread.
Okay, come on.
And ye shall know that I am the Lord your God.
Come on.
And it came to pass that at even the quails came up and covered the camp. And in the morning the dew lay round about the host.
Now, the Most High's promise is that at even, you're going to eat flesh. You're going to have quail. Right? In the morning, you're going to have bread. Here's my question. $1 million question, might I add. If the Sabbath, the seventh day, don't start until morning, why didn't they have quail on the evening of the sixth? Somebody hit again. Why didn't they have meat the night of the sixth? Because the sixth night ain't the Sabbath, according to your doctrine. Why didn't they have meat according to the promise of the Most High that night? I digress. 2 Timothy chapter 3, start at verse 12.
2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 12. Yea, and all that will live godly in Christ shall suffer persecution. But evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived.
These are times we living in. Don't be tossed to and fro with every wind of doctrine. Come on.
But continue thou in the things which thou hast learned.
Because people are going to be deceived and do the deceiving, the scriptures say to continue in what you already learned. Come on.
And has been assured.
And you've been assured in your spirit, you know it's the right thing to do. Come on.
Of knowing of whom thou hast learned them.
With the assurance of knowing who you learned those things from. Okay.
Hey, what chapter was that?
That's 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 12 through 14. The first day found in Genesis chapter 1 started in the evening. The Most High created darkness. The Most High created light. You can't argue that darkness was not a part of the creative work of the Most High. The evidence in Genesis 1 and 5 proves it, as well as the text that we read in John chapter 20 and verse 1. Those two scriptures alone demonstrate that the day begins before sunrise. Okay? Last scripture, Romans 14. I want somebody to answer the questions I posed, though. Why did they have meat the night of the 6th? They wasn't Sabbath yet, according to y'all. They should have had meat, because the Most High promised them that. You're going to have meat in the evening and bread in the day, but on the Shabbat, you're not going to go get nothing. You're going to have what you had stored up on the 6th day. So if the nighttime on the 6th, that evening, was still a part of the 6th day, why did they get their 6th day meat? Romans chapter 14, verse 5.
Romans chapter 14, verse 5.
Come on.
One man esteemeth one day above another. Mm-hmm. Another esteemeth every day alike. Mm-hmm. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind.
And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm fully persuaded in my mind that the Sabbath day is from Friday, what they call Friday, at evening, or I'll say the evening of the 6th day through the evening of the 7th day. That's the Holy Shabbat, according to thus saith the Most High. So questions got to be answered because a lot of hits went out. All right? Nah, get it Deuteronomy 30. But again, continue on in the things which thou hast learned and hast been assured of, knowing of whom thou hast learned them.
Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 19. I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live.
On that note, I'm going to say Shabbat Shalom. Happy Shabbat. Happy day of rest. May the Most High in Christ bless and keep you all. I pray that this lesson was edifying to the hearers, and there's some things that are cleared up. The questions that I posed, I welcome all feedback and responses, as long as you know to conduct yourself as a man of the Most High. Otherwise, I'm not going to answer a fool according to his folly. All right? So again, I'm Teacher Shaul, United Kingdom of Israel congregation. I thank you all for tuning in. And with that, we say, Shalom.